Hi, I'm Antoine, and I'm about to tell you how my own sister tried to poison me at dinner. She swore she'd be late, said traffic had her stuck, but 22 minutes after I said the name Jake, she walked in, smiled at me, and reached for my drink. I saw her hand tremble. I heard her whisper. In that moment, I realized my family's betrayal ran deeper than I ever imagined. But you won't believe what happened next. It had been years since we sat down as a family without tension hanging in the air like smoke you couldn't wave away. I used to be the one patching things up, quietly, without asking for nothing. They'd fall apart, and I'd be there, trying to hold on to some version of us that probably never really existed. Tonight was supposed to be different. My idea. My dime. A chance to breathe the same air without sharp words following every breath. I told myself maybe if we broke bread, we could break the silence, too. I picked a little southern spot in Houston. Nothing fancy, just familiar. Fried catfish, cornbread, sweet tea, the kind of food that should warm a man's soul. I wanted it to mean something. But deep down, I'd been feeling off for weeks. Small things. Glances. Conversations that ended too quick. I kept chalking it up to age. Until tonight. The first message came in from Charisse. I'll be late. No, sorry. No explanation. Just that. Everyone else showed up quiet, looking through me like I was a ghost in my own gathering. Not even a handshake. I tried to shrug it off, smiled through it, even cracked a little joke. Didn't land. Felt like I was sitting at a table full of strangers wearing my family's faces. 20 minutes crawled by. I was mid-sentence talking to my cousin Floyd, mentioned the name Jake. Didn't even realize it was Charisse's ex until the word slipped out. That's when she walked in. Hair perfect, smile wide, too wide. She locked eyes with me like she'd walked into a courtroom, not a restaurant. She made a big show of kissing my wife's cheek, saying, "Sorry I'm late," like we all hadn't been counting the minutes. She sat down next to my son, touched his arm, and threw me a glance that didn't match her words. I've seen fake smiles before, but this one was rehearsed. Her laugh was too loud. Her eyes moved too much. I didn't say nothing, but my gut stirred like it smelled rain on a sunny day. The drinks came. I always order sweet tea, no lemon. But this time, Charisse grabbed my glass, said, "Let me fix that for you, Pop," and dropped in a slice. Gotta have lemon. Southern classic, right? Her voice was sugary, but her hands were too quick, too practiced. I lifted the glass and caught a scent. Bitter, sharp, like metal wrapped in citrus. Didn't belong. A line from a podcast hit me like a warning bell. If it smells wrong, it probably is. I waited till she turned to laugh at something Jake said, then I swapped our glasses. Real casual. She took a sip from the one meant for me. Almost instantly, her face twisted. She spat the drink into her napkin and started coughing. "Damn, that's sour," she said, laughing it off like nothing happened. The table chuckled. Even my son rolled his eyes. But I didn't laugh. I stared. And what I saw wasn't surprise. It was panic, covered in makeup. She looked away too fast. I excused myself. Stepped toward the back, called the waiter over. Young man, maybe 22. Nervous. I asked him plain, "Did you put lemon in my tea?" He blinked. "No, sir, you ordered sweet tea, just like you always do." I nodded, thanked him, slipped him a tip bigger than the meal, told him to take care of himself. As he walked off, I stood there, staring at the wall like it held answers. Back at the table, I watched them laugh. My blood, my people. Every word they spoke felt like a lie I hadn't figured out yet. My hands itched. Not from anger, but realization. There'd been other signs. Phone calls that got quiet when I walked in. Money missing from accounts. Stories that didn't line up. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I was just awake, finally. I didn't say a word for the rest of the dinner. Just nodded, chewed slow, looked each one of them in the eye. I saw it all different now. This wasn't a meal. It was a stage. And they thought I was still playing the fool in the background. But I was taking notes. I used to believe that blood meant loyalty, that family would never poison the hand that fed it. But when you raise people who learn how to lie with a smile, you realize some bridges ain't worth rebuilding. They were never solid in the first place. This ain't about one dinner. It's years of being overlooked, of holding umbrellas for folks who let me drown when the storm hit. I sat there feeling the shift in my chest. Not sadness, not even rage, just clarity. Pure, quiet clarity. This won't slide. Not again. Some dinners feed your stomach, others, they feed your rage. The house felt colder than I remembered when I pulled into the driveway. The porch light flickered faint like it was trying to warn me of something. I sat in the car a minute longer than I needed to, watching the condensation crawl down the windshield, replaying every second of that dinner. Her face, that fake laugh, that glass of tea, it all looped in my mind like a broken record. I stepped inside. The place smelled like silence and leftover food. My small brick house, clean, quiet, and mine. Decades of work hung on those walls, framed certificates, photos nobody looked at anymore. Mail was piled on the counter. The meal I cooked last night, untouched, sat on the stove like it was waiting on someone who never showed. I dropped my keys in the bowl, sat at the kitchen table, and opened my notebook, the one I never let anybody see. The pen hovered over the page, but the words wouldn't come. My hand trembled. I closed it shut, rubbed my forehead. Then I heard it. My daddy's voice, clear as the first day he told me, "Never let him see you sweat, son." I let out a breath and wiped my brow. Funny how silence makes room for memories. They creep in uninvited, settle in your chest like dust. I thought back to last Christmas. Cherise stood in the kitchen telling my grandbaby that her mama held everything together, while I was outside cleaning the snow off their cars. No one said thank you. No one noticed. There was the time I brought a honey-glazed ham to Thanksgiving. Folks devoured it, then turned to Cherise and said, "Girl, this is amazing." She smiled, didn't correct them, didn't even blink, just took it like it was hers. Every time I tried to speak sense in family discussions, about bills, about the future, I got shut down like I was speaking in tongues. "Let's ask Marcus," they'd say. Not me, never me. Those weren't accidents. That was a pattern. Death by 1,000 small cuts. Each moment chipped away at something I thought was permanent, and now I saw it, clear as daylight. It wasn't just dislike. It was contempt, maybe even fear. As Maya Angelou once said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I just hadn't wanted to see it. I got up, walked over to my small safe box in the hallway closet. The metal was cold under my fingers. I wasn't looking for trouble. I was looking for answers, for grounding. Inside were papers no one else remembered existed. Among them, I found it, a photocopy of a will, my mother's, dated long before the bitterness took root. In it, she left me a small plot of land out near Lake Jackson, solely to me, not Marcus, not shared, just me. I stared at that paper so long my eyes burned. Did they know, or were they trying to make sure I never found it? The tea, her expression, the timing. Could all this be about more than just pride? Could it be about inheritance, money? That kind of motive made my skin crawl. I folded the will, slipped it under the cushion of my chair. Ain't nobody gonna touch this. Not yet. Not till I'm ready. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I picked it up. Thumb hovered over the screen. The message said, "We need to move faster before he notices." I didn't breathe for 5 full seconds. That wasn't a scam. That wasn't a robocall. That was meant for somebody else. But it landed here. I read it again, then again. Each time it hit harder, I typed slowly. "You sent this to the wrong person." Sent. Silence. No response. Just that familiar stillness that comes before a storm. My thumb hovered, tempted to call, but no. That ain't how you handle snakes. You let 'em think they still hidin'. I saved the message. Created a folder on my phone. Insurance. No more brushing off signs. I sat back down. The recliner creaked under my weight. I opened my notebook again, but this time, I wasn't journaling. I was building a blueprint, not for revenge, but for clarity, for protection. I started listing names, dates, incidents, patterns, hired help, maybe, lawyer, probably. Someone who knew how to move quiet. I thought of my grandkids, what they'd heard, what they'd been told. Did they see me the same way their mama did? As weak, as disposable? In my head, I started rehearsing the moment, the day I'd speak my piece. I built this. You will not take it from me. Simple, clear, true. My breathing steadied, pulse slowed. I could see it now. Not a fantasy. A fact waiting its turn. The kitchen stayed dim, except for the soft glow of the lamp hanging over the table. That paper, my mother's will, sat in the open now. I traced the edge of it with my fingertip, not out of sentiment but reminder. This ends different this time. Then I heard it, a car, slowing down out front, tires crunching gravel. I froze. Headlights cut through the blinds, sweeping the walls like searchlights. Then, my phone buzzed again. No name, just 6 words. You should have stayed quiet. Morning wasn't gentle. Light crept through the curtains, but my heart felt heavy. I lay there staring at ceiling cracks like they held secrets. On the kitchen counter was the fake evaluation just waiting for me to pick it up. It mocked me. I rehearsed how I'd confront Charisse, Darius, Draven, each in turn, but hesitation lingered like a shadow I couldn't shake. Birds chirped outside, oblivious. The contrast made my chest ache. I walked past the mantel where Margie's picture stood, next to photos of my grandchildren. Her face always reminded me why I fought. I pressed my palm to the glass, then stepped away. I resolved, no forged paper would rewrite my story. I slid into the car and drove to Draven Huxley's clinic under the guise of needing a health check. The building was sterile and quiet, walls echoing, emptiness magnified. The waiting room smelled like antiseptic and too many whispered promises. The receptionist gave me a soft nod, measured. On the wall behind her, diplomas, degrees, a nameplate, Dr. Huxley, Ph.D. I flipped through pamphlets in the rack, cognitive care for seniors, memory assessments you can trust. My stomach coiled. I settled into a chair, acting casual, watching the door. When Draven finally appeared, I stood. He stepped forward, hand out. I shook it. His grip was steady, but his smile was too smooth, too practiced. "Your file?" I asked. He paused, then said the record was blank. No entries, no tests, nothing. I held out the forged evaluation. "Did you authorize this?" My voice stayed level. His pupils shifted. Beads of sweat caught the clinic light. He said, "I only handle referrals." I pressed, "Referrals from whom?" He faltered. "Let me review your medical history first," he said. I leaned forward. "I have the right to see every file, every medical note." He swallowed. He excused himself and left me with an assistant saying he needed to check labs. I stayed calm. Eyes on the desk. I spotted a folder, half closed, with my name scribbled in a handwriting I knew. My pulse quickened. The assistant stood, stepped away. I raised my phone and snapped a photo. It was one shot, legal, low-key. I left the clinic walking normal, mask on, but my head burned inside. On the drive home, I played back his reactions, his pauses, his denial. Every flicker in his face retraced his lies. I knew I needed backup, legal counsel, someone with access to medical records. I thought of Zeke. I thought of Magnus. I thought of Zedric. I made mental calls. I planned to compare Draven's credentials in public versus private. If he was wearing a mask, I'd peel it off. Exactly. When I reached home, something was off. The door wasn't locked. My skin tightened. I stepped in. On the dining table lay an envelope. No name. I opened it. Inside, lab results, scans, test reports I never took. My heart constricted. They had started mapping my body before staking claim on my mind. The intrusion wasn't subtle. Morning light spilled across the dining table, soft and golden, but it hit those forged lab results like a spotlight in a prison yard. I sat there with a pen and sticky notes, marking up each page, dates, fake signatures, inconsistencies. My own handwriting lined the margins now, drawing connections. They thought I wouldn't look close. They forgot I used to run contracts for folks who thought they were smarter than me. Outside, the same car from last night rolled by again. Slower this time. Too slow. That same damn crawl like someone trying not to be noticed but hoping I'd see. I saw. I turned back to the fridge. My grandbaby's stick figure drawings, us holding hands, smiling, sun in the corner, hit harder than any file. That's who I'm fighting for. Not just my name, not just my rights, legacy, blood. I thought of Dr. King's words, like a whisper from deeper than memory. The time is always right to do what is right. I stood up. Time was now. I called Zedric from the front porch, low voice, eyes on the car as it turned the corner. "You still got that friend in medical compliance?" I asked. The one who doesn't ask questions? I do, he said. You ready? Damn right I'm ready. I grabbed the envelope I'd prepared, will, fake file, text threats, all inside. I chose my charcoal gray suit, pressed and quiet, shoes polished, looking like somebody who still demanded respect. In the mirror, I said it once, straight-faced. I'm not asking, I'm telling. Then I stepped out into Houston's heat, that kind of humid pressure that makes your clothes stick to your spine. But it didn't shake me. It matched my mood, thick, slow, simmering. The cafe was tucked between a florist and a secondhand bookstore. Quiet. I picked it on purpose. Charisse and Darius walked in like they were walking into court. Tight smiles, quick glances. Daddy, Charisse started before even sitting. We've been really concerned. You've been off. I didn't speak. She looked around the cafe, then raised her voice a notch. It's okay, we can talk here. You need help. Darius leaned in, shaking his head like some preacher. You think this is normal? Paranoia? Chasing shadows? I let him talk, let the folks at the other tables start to fidget. One woman picked up her coffee, froze mid-sip. Another stopped her typing. Then I pressed play on my phone. That same text, that same threat. I watched their faces shift like someone turned off the lights behind their eyes. I placed the envelope gently on the table and slid it forward. Here's my version of the story. Charisse didn't move. Darius's voice dropped. Where did you get this? I didn't answer. I just let the silence grow roots. Then soft and steady I said, Malcolm X once said, you're not to be so blind with patriotism that you can't face reality. Wrong is wrong. The room went still. I could see the shift happen right in front of me. That quiet panic when you realize the script won't save you anymore. I stood up, dropped a 20 on the table. I came to talk, I said, not to beg. Then I walked out. Sunlight hit my face like truth. Inside, I heard Charisse's voice rise, sharp, frantic. Darius stumbling over his words, but I didn't turn back. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Zedric, I answered. It's on, I said. Check Draven's clinic. Tonight. And under my breath, just for me. Lines in the sand, I drew them. Back home, the air inside felt wrong the second I stepped in. Too quiet, too still. My study door was cracked. I pushed it open slow. Drawers yanked out, files scattered, my desk overturned. But it was what sat dead center on the floor that stopped me. A single Polaroid. Me. Leaving the cafe. On the back, thick black marker. You're making this harder than it has to be. I held it in my hand, stared long. They weren't backing off. And now, they were in my house. I woke before sunlight touched the yard, tension knotting in my chest. The Polaroid lay face down on the nightstand. The image of me leaving that cafe burned into my mind once more. I ran through my surveillance notes. The times cars slowed, the faces that lurked near my windows, footsteps I couldn't place. I locked the front and back doors twice, checked windows latches, slid bolts where I could. I thought of the old line, the only thing necessary for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. The weight of waiting had grown heavier than any confrontation. Today, I would raise the stakes, but with patience. I called them over, Charisse and Darius. Midweek lunch, just family conversation. That's what I said. In my pocket lay the threatening text tape, a copy of the will, and a short video clip I'd hidden away. In the living room, I arranged things so they'd see every memory on the walls. Photos of Margie, our children, life before the betrayals. The old lighter sat right on the coffee table. I rehearsed my voice in my head, calm, firm, factual, no outbursts. My heart pounded steady. Control was my weapon now. At lunch, after a few forced pleasantries, I excused myself to the restroom. When I returned, silence swallowed the room. I pressed play on a hidden speaker. Charisse's voice, clear, admitting their plan. The room froze. Through the window, neighbors looked in. The shock on their faces lit the room colder than any confrontation ever could. Darius went pale. Charisse's lips parted. I rose slowly and said, "You forgot I invited more than you thought." The weight in the room shifted. They hadn't counted on video. The silence following that statement felt heavier than any argument before. Then, a neighbor from next door crossed the sidewalk, drawn by the sudden hush. He peered in the window and asked, loud enough for all to hear, "Is that Cherise talking?" She stammered. Darius stepped forward to defend, weakly. I leaned forward, voice quiet but unyielding. "Yes, that's her. She's the one moving money with my name on it." The neighbor backed away, shoulders tight. I let the moment stretch. Community eyes on the truth. I gathered my documents and stood, not rushed. I left the room calm, hearing muffled denials behind me. In my study, I sat and let the fight prepare itself. I mapped next moves. Send this audio to a media contact. Alert Zedric. Ready. Legal action. There was no celebration, just certainty. This was not theater anymore. As dusk fell, I walked into the front yard. There, glinting in the hedge, lay a small wire recorder, battery warm. My throat went dry. I flipped it open. On it, initials scratched. D, for Darius. They had been recording me. That device was theirs. I tucked it into my jacket, hardened my resolve, watching the house where betrayal walked free. I called Zeke, then I rang Zedric. Tonight, I told both of them, is the night. My hands were steady holding the phone. On my desk lay everything, the Polaroid, that S6 video, the bogus medical evaluation, the last will. This table had become the front line. My heart thundered, but my face stayed calm. I ran through my planned words again in my mind. Calm, precise, undeniable. I remembered how they used to laugh at me behind closed doors, how silence was their most lethal weapon. Tonight, I'd return fire. I smoothed my coat, stood, walked to the door, and when the knock came, I opened it. "Come in," I said. "I've been waiting." They crossed the threshold, eyes darting. Cherise's gaze flicked to my desk. Darius's voice rose immediately. "What is this?" he asked, chest taut. I let him speak, nodded quietly, hands in plain view. Then I closed the door deliberately, slow, firm, a boundary drawn. "Do you really believe I'm losing my mind?" I asked. His shoulders jerked. Cherise's lips parted. I hit the button. Through the hidden speaker, Cherise's voice filled the room, admitting the scheme to shift my assets. A plan she laid out in her own words. Silence ripped the space open. Darius's eyes went wide. Cherise froze mid-breath. I rose, took a breath. "Your next move was going to be forcing me to sign papers I never saw," I said. She flailed for a denial, but her own voice carried on. I watched her crumble. Evidence beat words every time. Then I sagged as though a wave struck me, head tilting. Their faces softened. They moved. I caught Darius's hand, whispered low, "Don't touch me." He recoiled, his eyes registering horror. I straightened suddenly. "I wasn't dizzy," I said firmly. "I was watching the moment y'all slipped." Their dominance evaporated in that line. Room shifted. I walked past them, dignified. The forged documents, the video device, the will, laid out plain for them, and whoever watched. "Thought I was too old to hit back," I said. "Watch me take it all back." They stood, rooted. No words, no fight left in them. I didn't need to prove myself further. I turned my back. Late that night, in my study, another envelope waited on the desk. I opened it with slow fingers. Inside, photos. My grandchildren in another home, in their beds, faces peaceful in a place I didn't recognize. And a single note. "Go public with this and see what they'll do." Blood hammered in my ears. They've moved from financial warfare into bloodlines now. With my children, I sent a single message. "Meet me at home tonight. Come with truth." No embellishments, no weeping. My heart pounded as I arranged the living room. TV, laptop, chairs, evidence stacked like bricks. The lighter with that inscription sat in front, a quiet reminder. I walked through my opening lines in the back of my mind. Calm, unbreakable. As dusk slipped in, shadows moved at windows. Cars stopped, figures approached. I flipped on the lights and stood at the door. "This ends tonight," I said as they came in. The screen flickered to life. A video played on the wall. Draven Huxley in his clinic. "Yes, I fabricated that evaluation," he admitted plainly. The room froze. Cherise gasped. Darius's face went ashen. On another screen, Zeke stood in split view with Draven, confirming the man's credentials were fraudulent, the documents fake. I spoke. You used a mask. Let's peel it off. Draven's live image trembled. He stammered, then confessed. Power shifted. They could no longer hide behind their lies. Next projection, the contract, signed, effective. Transferring my house title into Sharice's name months ago, she leapt up. I didn't see this version, she spat. I slid the original will in view beside it. The two documents lay side by side. The narrative she built unraveled on contact with truth. Darius looked at me, eyes losing fire. I remained still. Evidence spoke, truth versus lies, in plain relief. Then came her own voice again, a recorded confession. Sharice apologizing to Darius, admitting she was tired of my stubbornness, wishing to move me out of the picture. Her voice cracked. She froze. Darius opened his mouth and shut it again. No recovery. Outside, neighbors gathered at windows, whispers across lawns. Shame had spilled into the night. No corners left dark. I stood silent, letting the room absorb what just struck it. Sharice's tears came. Darius stayed mute. I said softly, I gave you respect. You gave me deceit. I cut power to the projector. Darkness followed the light, and with it a verdict. I did not cheer. I simply moved away, leaving them to digest. My resolve, I would reclaim this house, this name, edge by edge. A phone buzz cracked the quiet. I saw a news alert, clips from tonight's battle already posted on the local forum. Audio, video, comments flowing. They got him good. Truth always wins. Vindication tastes strange, relief with dread. The war left my living room for the public square. I looked back at the lighter, its inscription glowing faint in the dark. The walls heard the confession. Now the world would too. A week had passed. Quiet didn't feel empty now, just earned. No shouting. No lies echoing off these walls. Just the soft hum of the fridge and the slow creak of the floor under my steps. Folks in town reacted how folks do. Some ducked their heads when they saw me at the grocery store. Others, mostly older men, nodded once and kept walking. They didn't need to say anything. One of the community leaders stopped by yesterday. Brought hot food, not a word. Just left it on the porch, tipped his hat. That meant more than any apology. I spent that morning cleaning out drawers I hadn't opened in years. Found old photos stuck to the bottom of a shoebox. Me in my 20s, her pregnant with Sharice. A picture of Darius trying to eat sand at the beach. I sat with those a while. The lighter was there too. I struck it once, lit a single candle, and watched the flame for a long while. Peace don't come loud, it knocks soft, I whispered. And tonight, it knocked. Midweek, a certified letter showed up. I thought it was more legal mess at first, but then I saw the return address, somewhere in Georgia. The name, Reggie Thomas. I didn't know a Reggie. Opened it slowly. Inside was a letter, folded neat, with an old photograph tucked in, black and white. Two little boys in a man's arms. One of them was me, the other, Reggie. He wrote that he was my half-brother. Said our father kept tabs on me but never found the nerve to reach out. He kept this photo on his dresser till the day he passed, Reggie wrote. Said he wasn't proud of how things went, but he never forgot you. That picture, man. It cracked something open inside. Not forgiveness, not yet, but something shifted. For so long I thought I was left behind on purpose. Now I know he just didn't know how to come back. Sunday morning, Pastor Jim called. Said the men's group wanted me to speak. I told him I ain't no preacher. He said, "You're not, but you're someone they need to hear." I hesitated, but something in me said, "Do it, for the men, not for attention." I stood up front in that cold church basement, looked out at familiar faces. I said, "What's taken from you in silence must be reclaimed in voice." Some nodded, others stared like I'd read their journals. And then, one by one, they started sharing. Men I'd known for years talking about sons who cut them off, daughters who rolled their eyes when they spoke, young guys scribbling notes like they were in school. I saw healing pass from chair to chair, not loud, not flashy, but steady, collective. Sharice came back around that next Thursday, no announcements. She just walked into service, sat beside me, said nothing. Afterward, she looked at me, eyes lower than I'd ever seen them, and said, "I'm not here to fix the past, just to face it." I didn't hug her, didn't say much, but I didn't get up and walk away either. Later, she asked to go to that old bench in the park, the one her mama used to take her to as a little girl. We went. The air smelled like leaves and dust. She sat. I sat. For a while, neither of us said anything. Then she started talking, not as someone defending herself, but as a daughter trying to be real. I let her. For the first time in years, I truly listened. And it mattered. Back at the house, after she left, I opened a small display box I'd found in the garage. Inside, I placed the lighter. Tucked in beside it, a handwritten note. Tested. Unbroken. I sat down, turned on my old laptop. I'd been thinking about this for days. Clicked record. Looked into the lens. "If you're watching this," I said, "and they made you feel invisible, I see you. You matter. You ain't finished yet." I titled that video, "When They Tried to Rewrite My Story." Then I hit upload.